Our lesson today is going to be about rounding numbers and estimating. When we don't need an exact amount to describe a situation, we can just round it or estimate it to a place. Now, when we round, we are rounding to a specific place. Round to the nearest ones, round to the nearest tens, okay? If I'm estimating, it's just kind of a generic estimation. You kind of pick a number that's easy for you to work with. So on this number line, we see that 67 falls between 60 and 70, but it's closer to 70. So we would round 67 up to 70. What are some creative sayings that you guys know to help you remember your rounding rules?
I always forget it.
Round to the nearest 10.
No, it was like, if it's 5 and up, you do a high 5. If it's 4 and below, you do below 5.
Okay, never heard that. Like it.
No, it was actually Miss Yellow's class.
I like it. I've always heard 5 or more, up the score, less than 5, take a dive.
That's what
So
I do.
there's a couple of different things that people have heard over their course of school education that help you remember. And so just over the years, I've heard some that people are like, oh, my teacher said this, or my teacher said this. So whatever helps you is what you use. But you got to remember that anytime it's 5 or more, you're going to raise the score. You're going to round up. If it's less than 5, you'll always round down.
What if
okay?
it is 5?
You go
If
up.
it's 5 or more, then you would go up.
If it's 5 or more, you go fly.
Now, if I said, okay, this is your opportunity to write on your whiteboard. Round 523 to the nearest 100.
550?
That is the easiest question you've ever asked.
523. Round that to the nearest 100.
I
Good.
already did it and it's
Good. Very good.
500
Okay. So when I'm rounding, you guys can go ahead and put your boards down. Good job. So I like for you guys to underline the place that you're rounding to. Since the 5 is in the hundreds place, I'm going to underline it. And then I look directly to the right. I look at the next door neighbor. That's what I'm using to determine if that number stays the same or if it rounds up. Because the neighbor is less than, or it's less than 5, that means that I take a dive. I am going to round 523 down to 500, which is what all of you have. So good job. Okay? Rounding numbers can help us estimate the answers to problems. When we don't need an exact answer, rounded numbers are easier to calculate mentally. How many people are trying to solve problems like when you're checking your work and you want to know does my answer make sense, and you just kind of round it or estimate it? Anybody do that? Because we talk about it every day when we're checking over our work. Good. If you have a problem like we did yesterday, it was like $2 and some change. Okay? And if I were to divide it by 10. Okay, if I forgot to put my decimal up here to get $8 and whatever I'm doing, okay, if I forgot to put the decimal and I got 832, you would have to ask yourself, estimate it. Okay, well 10 times like about 800, whoa, that's definitely not 82. Okay, you can use rounding to help you estimate answers. All right, in a presidential election, each state is assigned a certain number of electoral votes. Have y'all heard about these lately? Okay. Since we had a recent election. Based on the 2000 census, the state of Florida was assigned 27 electoral votes, and the state of Texas was assigned 34. About how many electoral votes can a candidate win altogether in those states? If I don't win an exact number, how could I round? Yes?
They both go to 30.
Okay. So 27 rounds to 30. 34 rounds to 30. Together, all together, what do I have?
60 votes.
I have 60 votes. Okay, does everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I round 27 to 30?
Because it's higher than 5.
Because this number right here, I'm rounding the 2, and because the neighbor is greater than 5, it goes up. If you picture it on that number line, like how we did a minute ago, if I have 20 to 30, and 27 is like up here, what's it closer to?
30.
Right. Okay, if I had 30 to 40 and I had 34 on there, 34 would be closer to 30, which is why I'm rounding both to 30. Okay. In a presidential election, each state is assigned, oh, we already did this one. Did I just do that one? Is that the same thing? Yeah, that's the exact same thing. Okay, boop, next. The average depth of the East China Sea is 620 feet. The average depth of the Yellow Sea is 121 feet. To the nearest 100 feet, delete, about how many feet deeper is the average depth of the East China Sea? What would I do? About. About is my key word here.
About,
Y'all work it out on your whiteboards. Draw it on your whiteboard real quick.
I don't have an expo, so mine doesn't work. But it's fine. It's not.
put an extra zero on that, Milo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
0.
How tall was it? How deep was the lake Sienna?
About
East China Sea. The East China Sea is 620 feet. The Yellow Sea is 121 feet. So to the nearest 100,
Oh, that's why it's
how many feet deeper?
I got it.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of this on boards around the room. Let's talk about why.
because it
Okay.
says 100.
First of all, I have 620 feet. What would I round that to make it easier? 600, okay? The next number I have is 121 feet. What would I round that to the nearest 100? 100. Because my question says how many feet deeper is the average depth of the East China Sea, I want to know the difference. So I'm subtracting. And the majority of you ended up with 500. 500 what?
Feet more.
Mm-hmm. 500 feet deeper.
If we did round to the nearest 10, it'd be the same answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, our next problem. A community theater group is giving 4 performances of a play. The theater can seat 424 guests. All of the tickets for each performance have been sold. Estimate the total number of guests who plan to see the performance by first rounding the number of guests for each performance to the nearest 100. So you're taking the amount for each amount of guests, rounding to the nearest 100. Please work this on your whiteboard and then we'll talk about it. It's okay, you can just do it on paper. Okay, a community theater group is giving 4 performances. If the theater can seat 424 guests and all of the tickets have been sold, the first thing I need to do is estimate the total number of guests. What did y'all estimate 424 to? 400. Okay? So I'm going to round to the nearest 100. Now, if I'm giving 4 performances, what do I do with 400?
Multiply.
Multiply it by 4. Y'all, what is 4 times 4? 16. Then put the 2 zeros at the end. Okay, I saw a lot of answers that were different than this. So I wanted to talk about this and make sure everybody is on the same page and understands how to solve this problem. Okay, so the reason we first started by rounding the number of guests is because I want to make that number of guests easier to be able to do mental math. So I round it down to 400. I can multiply 400 times 4 really easily because I know 4 times 4 is 16, and then it's just 1,600. Okay, 1,600 what?
Ghost.
Yes, or people, right.
Yes.
Okay, when estimating, it is not always necessary to use rounded numbers. Instead, we can use compatible numbers. So sometimes you'll have numbers that you can join together, or you can round to a number that is close. So say, for example, you have 33 divided by 4. Okay, well 33 is really close to 32, and 32 can be evenly divided by 4. So those are what we call compatible numbers. Okay?
On the guess one, if we get it round to the nearest 100, it'd be 1,696.
Okay, yeah, if you actually were to solve it without rounding.
Yeah.
All right, so compatible numbers are numbers that are easy to compute mentally, something you can do in your head quickly. Think about the problem that we solved about theater seats. We have 4 shows times 424 seats. Okay, 24 is close to 25, and 25 is easy to multiply by 4, right? So if I were to round up 424 to 425, is that what, hold on. Okay, 4 shows times 424 seats. So since 24 is close to 25, and 25 is easy to multiply by 4, if you picture like quarters, then 4 times 400 is what we did a second ago, and we rounded to 1,600. You could take it a step further. 4 times 25 is equal to 100. Why did I also do 4 times 25 in this problem? This is what we did first a second ago on the last slide. We rounded way down to 400, and we got 1,600. But to get an even more accurate number, I could then, as a second step, I could then go ahead and do 4 times 25. Why am I doing 4 times 25? Yeah.
So it'd be easier because if you do that, it'd be 100, and you just know that if it would like be times 100, it'd be the same thing, just with extra zeros.
Okay. So remember a second ago, I said 24 is close to 25?
Yes.
Okay, if you look at the end of 424, if I were to bump 24 up to 25, I'm going to get an even closer, more accurate estimation. Okay, this is where the 25 here is coming from. It's coming from here. Okay, instead of rounding all the way down to 400, I'm doing this first where my first step is. That's what I did a second ago on the previous slide. Now I'm taking it one step further to make my estimation more accurate by saying, okay, well, I can take this 24 here, round it to 25. Since I have 4 shows, that's about 100 more people that I can now add to 1,600. So 1,600 plus 100 gives me 1,700, which is an even closer, more accurate estimate than 1,600 is. Y'all see how it gets me closer to the real answer? Bryce, what did you say the real answer was?
Real answer? 1,696.
Okay, and this is my real answer. Is 1,700 closer or is 1,600 closer? 1,700 is closer because I'm taking the 25, instead of completely getting rid of it and rounding down to 400, I'm then taking this and rounding it to 25 because it's easy to multiply by 4. It's like 4 quarters equals $1. Okay, 4 25s equal this 100 down here that I can also add to the 1,600, so I have a more accurate estimate. Okay. Okay, we're going to try using compatible numbers to solve this problem with your whiteboard. Leela's car traveled 129 miles and used 4 gallons of gas. About how many miles did the car travel on each gallon? Y'all take a minute and try and work this out either on scratch paper or on your whiteboard. Y'all, what I'm seeing on most of y'all's boards is 30. Somebody who got 30, please explain how you got 30, what you did. Yes, ma'am.
So I did, well, 30 times 4 is 120.
Okay, so if we're thinking 30 times 4 is 120, we're looking at the first part here. So I'd be rounding to the nearest 10 to make 129 to 120 because that's compatible for you. Okay, right?
I meant 130. That would be rounded to 100. And then I divided it and it was closer.
Okay, so here's another way. I'm going to use a different color. If I were to round 129 to 120, Okay, first of all, I know that 120 can evenly divide by 4 to give me about 30. Okay, so that's option 1 in red. If I rounded 129 to 130 and I did 130 divided by 4, I still know that 4 goes into 13. Oops, sorry, undo. 3 times, which is 12. Okay, and 4 goes into 10 twice. So it's about 32. I'm going to have a remainder. So about 32. That was another very common answer I saw on y'all's whiteboards. Okay, so I've got about 32. I have about 30. Did anybody round this number up right here to 132? Colton?
I rounded it up to 132, and then I took away the hundreds. I'm not sure how I did this, but if I just randomly guess.
Mrs. Watson,
Yes.
you have their packets and come to my desk to pick out, please.
So I rounded it up to 132, and then I knew, I have things that I probably just ended up guessing, I can't remember. And then I did 32 divided by 4 is 8 with, and then somehow I did 8 times 34 and got 32 at all.
Okay, so he was thinking 32 can be evenly divided by 4. What if I tried 132? Maybe I can try that, see how it goes, because these last 2 digits can be divided by 4. So maybe 132 can be divided by 4. Okay, because we know 32 divided by 4 is A, evenly. So he was kind of playing around with that. Does it work evenly?
Yes.
Yeah, it sure does. Look at that. 132 divided by 4 is exactly 33. Okay, 3 different ways right there on how to round or use estimation. Do you think that we're always going to get the exact same answer if it doesn't tell you what to round to? No, because what's compatible, what's easy for Sammy to do in his head may not be the same thing that Grace finds to be easy to do in her head, or Carter to do in his head. Okay, everybody's going to find compatible numbers that work best for them. Okay, I like 120. I like numbers that end in 0. Okay, 20, that's easy for me. I know that 4 times 30 gives me 120. Easy peasy, I can do that really quick. I have to think a little bit more about 132. 130, sure, I can kind of figure that out. It's about 32. Like I know 4 goes into 13 3 times, and then I would have 4 goes into 10 2 times. I can picture that in my mind. You're trying, the goal when you're estimating is to pick numbers that are easy for you to work with when you're using compatible numbers. Yes?
I think it's 149.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about rounding and estimation? Okay, your lesson is all the written practice for lesson 33. Starts on 227 to 228. Numbers 6 through 8. Those 3 problems require an equation before you solve.